Welcome to today's edition of our Design Diaries, and I'm super thrilled to have Sophia Levens with us today, and we're going to chat it up big time. So Sophia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Happy to be here.
There we go. Hey, first of all, why don't you just say a little bit about your life in design? Because I know a little bit about you, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about yourself.
Actually, I'll start a little bit growing up. So growing up, both my parents were very entrepreneurial. They had their own businesses. I really gravitated to kind of the sciences and mathematics and things like that. And I actually entered into college as a business major. And then I had this really creative side that I thought that I would never be able to tap into if I just continued this path of business that I had been on from my parents, and something that I found really engaging, but just something that I knew it felt like it was inherent and part of me. And so I made a very good decision in college, probably one of my only very good decisions in college, which was to actually just switch over to an art major. And so I got my degree in art studio with an emphasis in ceramics and installation art, but knew I would never be a working artist, just wanted to have that creative background. And then found my way into some internships for kind of startup companies doing window displays and things like that. And they really thought that I understood their brand and their aesthetic. And so they asked me if I had ever used Photoshop, in which I had, and offered me a job within their marketing department. And that's when I really switched over and kind of got formally trained for a few years in graphic design and trained under a really amazing creative director there.
Tell me a little bit about what's the most exciting part of being a design leader in the space you're in?
So this job is the head of the SAP Design System. And it's quite exciting being able to be at a part of the company that really impacts every nook and cranny of the products that we have here. Previous to this, I was in a single line of products and really had some deep expertise in different areas of the business. And I love being close to the customers and to the business and our users. But it's really also fun taking a job and really thinking about scale and how you can actually scale good design across an entire company is an interesting challenge. There's a lot of moving parts. I like a big, complex kind of engine that has to be taken apart and reassembled in many different ways, and this gives me that.
Scale, huh? What's your standpoint of scale and how it ties to what you're doing today?
First of all, let me explain a little bit of a design system for everyone out there. Design systems are obviously the foundational blocks of any product, any screen that you would look at from a given company. It's really a way to scale, first of all, the company's brand expression. Each company has a set of emotions that they're trying to invoke in their different customers, and also some principles that they're trying to get across, right? And if you do a design system right, you can actually build those into the components that make up each page of the design. Are we an expressive company? Are we really human-centered? Are we kind of soft and empathetic? Or are we really technical and precise? All of those things can kind of come across and those characteristics in a design system. So you can first scale kind of the brand identity into the different products, and then you can actually scale good design practices. So one of my favorite things about the SAP Design System is really the focus on accessibility. So in each component that we build, we obviously build a lot of inclusive practices into those, whether that be our font that we've created, 72, we've looked at a lot of different readability aspects of that, but also things like, having our colors make sure that they actually have enough contrast in them, among a lot of other principles with different screen readers, making sure our components are all globalized for right to left and left to right languages. There's a ton of way at a company at this size. If you build your building blocks in a way that really factors in a global audience, it can actually make huge impact, not just on our business, which it does, but also just on the end users' lives and the people that we can serve.
If I reflect a little bit on my journey so far, obviously I've gone through, in some part, contributing to the creation of design systems at least adoption of design system. And I often hear designers say, well, you know what, it's great to have a design system, but it really stifles our creativity. We are not able to express ourselves. What's your thought on that point of view, that design system stifles creativity?
Yeah. First of all, that is a fantastic question, because I think it's every team really struggles with that. And I think every designer does, because again, we want to scale, we want to have practices. We know how important consistency is for our users. That actually builds a lot of usability in by just having consistency, but still kind of it can get doled out in that I've got to follow all these rules and these are all figured out for me. So two things. First of all, like I said, you've got to have that marriage between brand and the design system. And if you're doing that right and you really understand your customers and what you want to be as a brand, the base of the design system and the creativity that goes into that can really flourish. It doesn't have to just be these generic kind of modern systems that we see across the map today. The second thing is that it's how the design system is set up, right? And most companies on earth have one of two things. They have either a centralized design system team, meaning every single component and pattern that the company makes only goes through one team. And that can be a real bottleneck, especially for the business needs, right? And there's usually a queue and a line and they can't get it through. And that really slows down the speed that businesses need to move at. And that really makes designers feel stuck. And then there's the other model that most design systems are in, which is a federated model, meaning, okay, there's some basic principles of design language, and then you business areas, you go all do your own thing, or your different brands within maybe a business. And while that is good for speed, that actually you lose a lot of that consistency that actually has value for customers as well. And so one of the things that we're doing right now is an inner source model, meaning we have standards and best practices that we uphold, we have a common platform, and we have a common way of working and processes. And we do have a central team that helps with kind of our most common things. But then our different areas of the business can also contribute, so they can move at the speed they need to go, but other teams get the power to kind of pick that up. And that tends to help unlock some of the creativity that you feel like if you have to go through the central team, or you're just floating on your own and don't really know what anyone else is, you can really mitigate some of those big problems by the inner source model.
I mean, I can tend to agree with some of what you said, because if I again relive some of my experiences in seeing designers at work, I've seen the same designers create crap out of the same design system, and then others using the same thing to produce really compelling experiences. So in some ways, it's really about how you not only interpret the design system, but how you compile them. That's where your creativity lies. So again, there's some semblance of that. But I would also ask a business question.
Sure.
All right, fine, we're going to have a design system. Fantastic. Consistency, okay. But why does the business care about consistency? I mean, they're selling products and services. As long as it serves the needs of users, what's the big deal?
Yeah. So the business should care for a bunch of reasons. I've already mentioned one, which is accessibility at scale, right? Any accessibility isn't just a good thing to do. It really is good business, right? You can't bid on certain contracts. You can't go into certain industries as a business unless you have an accessible base. And that isn't delivered fully through the design system, but it's a huge component of it. So that's a real reason that design systems are important in the context of business. The other thing with consistency and that importance is that really, if you think about every business wants to expand its user base, right? No one wants to land one user and not have them buy different parts and pieces of what they do. And there's often a really big barrier if all those things are inconsistent to onboarding and actually kind of upgrading the different customers to those different areas. If they have to retrain their users in a company, their employees over and over again on basic best practices, where to find your settings, where to find different things on a page, how the key tenets of interaction work, That's a ton of actually uptaking cost for a company. So that consistency helps drive in really like a lower bar for the different education that's needed to get up to speed as you expand across a different area of the business.
Let's flip to a different part of our design system. There are plenty out there.
Yeah.
Both in the consumer space, of course, even in B2B space. What, in your opinion, would you think are differentiating characteristics that we need to consider?
Yeah.
If I were to build a new design system from scratch tomorrow,
Yeah.
what should I think about? What should I care about?
You should definitely care a little bit about excellence and quality, right? Like of actually crafting those components. It's your chance to do it one time and really get the craft of each of those right. Because once those elements are in, they scale across. You're going to need to think about what things you want to convey to your customers and build that in real meaningful ways. I'll give you an example of this. We just built a new illustration system here at SAP. And with that, we didn't just think, oh, we want something on trend or cool or, these illustrations to look good. We really thought about what we stood for as a company. That we wanted to represent the very global population that we serve, that we wanted to have realistic interpretations of the humans and their lived experiences. And so our illustrations are actually a little bit more realistic looking than a lot of kind of the trend of the industry right now. And I know those things go up and down, but it's really tapping in to what you want to see and kind of going from there.
If you were to explain what is a design system, I know you explained it right now, but if you were to explain it to, let's say, a 4-year-old, what do you say?
Yeah, so having a 6-year-old, I actually have to explain this quite often, what mommy does.
Yeah.
And so I talk a little bit about, anytime you're using anything online, any app that you use, if it's a game that you play, if it's a social media site, there's obviously parts that you see used over and over again. So at a given company, instead of a designer designing a button and every designer having to redesign that button every time you want to use a button, you can design it once and then actually you can code it once and that becomes a component. And that component is a lot like a Lego brick. And those Lego bricks you can assemble in so many different ways. You can build so many different things, but for us, we really build the Lego bricks for companies that you can be able to create an infinite amount of possibilities from.
So they can either go to Legoland or they can talk to you.
Exactly.
Right? The design system itself has to grow.
Yeah.
Because if I think about the sort of the different ways of interaction that the user has, they obviously have mobile devices. They have smart watches, they got smart glasses, they got AR, VR, they got obviously the web. There are other interaction mechanisms on events and kiosks and whatnot. So how do you, in your current job or in your previous jobs, how do you scale the same representation of the patterns in the Lego blocks, that we call it, across all of those touch points?
Touch points, yeah. And that's true. So at SAP, we have 500 million users worldwide. And because of that, we know we have to meet our users where they are. And just like you said, that's happening across every touch point you can imagine. I mean, from wearables to even Vision OS, we look at these different areas and we really make sure that we're staying kind of on the forefront of those things. And that takes building expertise. We have a lot of great partnerships with the companies that are producing these different technologies and these different formats in which we provide the design system on. And we really understand from them what is coming now and what is coming next. And then not only are we creating those kind of designs to meet our users where they are, but we're also trying to be on the forefront and really understand how we can make a design system flexible enough to be considered across those different areas. It's not just about creating consistency across that ecosystem. It's about taking the power of each of those different platforms and then trying to create the components that will make the most impact.
Let's make an argument. Why would you say that it's important for a consistent interaction model across devices?
So I think, again, usually if you're looking at a single company in this, I might say if there's individual apps, obviously not, right? But if you're a company and you can complete tasks in multiple ways, you're going to want a familiarity in those zones. And if you're used to maybe approving a vacation request all the time on your desktop, right? When you start enabling different platforms like your phone or watch or even Vision OS, you're going to want some familiarity to help guide you through. It's a good guide point. But when it comes to things like voice and things like that, I think that's where you should be platform specific, and that's where you should lose those interaction paradigms as well. So I don't think that's a hard and fast rule for me. I think when it is interface, it's nice to have some familiarity when it comes to that, but I think we're moving into a lot of places where we can actually go beyond interface to help achieve some of the tasks that our users want.
When you mentioned that our design system or the design systems that we work in the past also scales across devices, across operating systems, and you work with a lot of product teams.
Yeah.
How do designers keep up with changes to the design system, with actually being aware of the design system to a point that they know how to apply the design system in their day-to-day work?
Yeah. I think when you first onboard at a company, getting to know the design system should be part of that baseline training. And if your company isn't offering that out of the box to kind of you as a new person, it's kind of your first resource to go learn and understand and then start playing. Like I would recommend to any designer, find a mentor that you think is really great at this. Usually applicable to that individual design system, because there's a lot of nuances usually within the different best practices and guidelines there. So finding that mentor that can really guide you and help you kind of learn and upskill. And then really, if a design system is doing it right, they should have some exemplar, they should have some spotlight products or spotlight experiences that they really can point you to. What's a great example of how that team thinks the design system's been implemented. So go find those reference, materials, and then look at what they're doing in there, and try to dissect that a bit as a designer. Can you see any trends or patterns about the things when it's applied right? What is that's making it right over and over again?
If in your current job you're asked to create a design system again, could you do it? Would you create a new design system? Or would you build on top of what you have? What would your approach be towards the future? This is more of a future question.
Yeah.
The design system for the future, do you see this exactly as it is, the evolution of the components, or do you see it taking a different shape?
It's a balance, right? Because with AI in the mix and so many of the different mediums that we've been talking about, there's definitely going to need to be new ways of thinking about and working, especially as we look at design systems and componentry across those areas. So there would be parts of me that would want to do it from scratch, but if you do it truly like from scratch, I don't want to lose any of the institutional knowledge that we've built up. We have a ton of industry expertise, and that makes its way into the needs of the design system. And we really cover so many use cases, so many platforms. There's so much to build on. Starting from scratch seems like, maybe a clean way to do it, but I wouldn't ever want to throw away the knowledge or the foundations or the things that we've really built up over the years, all the research, all the insights, all the customer feedback that sits in the design system today. So for me, if I really, truly got asked that question, I think there would be maybe like cleanup, like to clean, and then go to what's next as well, but not lose that kind of core part of what we have today.
What do you tell product teams about adopting the design system in a particular cycle, and they have other pressures around, developing new features and functions and meeting the customer goals? Why is design system that important to be able to trade off features against it? What would you say?
Yeah. So I think with having a new design system, it helps whatever company you're at be sold as one product, right? Whether that's a suite of products or those different things, it really does help your sales teams in being able to say, hey, we offer all these different things as a company, and they work together and they're seamless and they're integrated. And a design system is a baseline for people believing that statement. Even getting in the door with the idea that, hey, you bought thing A from us, you want to buy thing B and C. If they don't look and act the same, people aren't even going to let you in the door with, they're actually going to like be integrated or seamless or build value for a company. So I think at the heart of it, it's really about understanding the impact that design systems really make in the sales cycle. We have a lot of research here at SAP and just how much design system impacts sales, and it's significant. It's, I think, more than people would expect. And actually, when I talk to designers, that's usually where I start my conversation, is impact on sales and pre-sales and what that is. And I think that's really where most design systems need to start talking about, is there and not, oh, it's look and feel, or it's going to make things look nicer and things like that. I think design systems sometimes gets trapped in that, when really it's a business case against, say, a new feature development. And I also think that on top of that, when you look at the features and functions, if you just kept barreling feature function, and you never took the chance to actually make sure you're applying the design system, not only are you going to get inconsistent across the company, in different workflows, you're going to lose consistency. And the complexity as your product grows, you're going to really start to confuse, even in a single product line. So it's really something that you have to kind of take the time, like anything that you do as a foundational level, to make sure you're doing.
What's your sense around the technology relationship to design systems? So let me break down the question. Are you in favor of design system highly embedded with a single technology that everyone uses?
Yeah.
Or do you think it's better to have an agnostic design system?
Yeah.
Both have challenges and some pros in there. What's your thought?
I think it 100% comes down to the business strategy of the company. And again, I feel like you keep on asking me design questions, so I keep on going to business. But really, it's true. So if you're a business and you're primarily doing organic growth, right? Then like from the company, right? You can have a design system that's tied to a singular technology, right? And that's a beautiful thing to have as a company. It's really clean and seamless, and you can get a lot of scale from that. And there's a lot of technology, like, web components, for instance, that you can wrapper in developers' technology of choice as well, because sometimes our developer counterparts like a little bit of flexibility on what framework they best optimize for. If you're a company that's got a strategy that includes acquisitions, it's really helpful to understand that your design system kind of sits as a more flexible layer, right? Because as you get these acquisitions, you don't want technology rewrite to be a barrier of acquisition, and it will be. If you're doing a major acquisition, and as part of that, the implication is you're going to have to rewrite your entire technology stack on our proprietary or our single stack technology that only works in this way right off the bat. To be included in this company, that's going to actually be a huge detriment to people that are going to want to be able to come in and be a part of the company. So I think if you're looking at strategies where you're doing non-organic growth, then it makes sense to have a design system that can be flexible and really sit as almost like a standard that can be adopted across different technologies.
Cool. All right, there we go. A great discussion with Sophia on design systems. Plenty of things we learned, including design system is really about scaling. It's about getting consistency with business benefits. We are there to ensure that users can work across devices with the similar mental models. It actually helps the company build a brand identity and thereby cross-selling and upselling more of our products and services. So Sophia, thank you for being on the show. We'll have you back for a deeper discussion next time.
Love it.
Okay, thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Okay.